There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Medium's World. I am your host, Bonnie Wirth, and this is our grand finale, the last of our conversations from this phenomenal series that has taken place over the last 10 days. I'm truly, truly grateful for everyone who's been showing up, consistently contributing, and being a part of this event. And of course, more than anything, completely and totally inspired with purpose through all the amazing stories and the conversations that we've been having. Before we move into our introduction of tonight's guest, I want to just invite all of us to take a moment, to take pause, to find our breath, and to come into a connection of unity and purpose here this evening. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and take a really deep breath in. You might even just find that you need to just allow yourself just to a moment, some space, just to catch your breath. It's in the busyness of life and the busyness of the world that we often lose our connection to our breath, our connection to who we are. And by simply taking a chance in the moment to sit and be present with a gentle rise of the inhale and the exhale, we become more centered, we become more aware, we become more grounded and also connected. Sometimes the chaos of the modern world and all its distractions can interrupt our connection. It can interrupt the messages from our guides and angels, and more importantly, those messages coming in from the spirit world. And so as we take pause, we allow life to settle. There's nowhere else we need to be, nothing else we need to be doing, except simply being here where we are in this moment. A moment that allows us to unite, a moment that gives us opportunity to come together, to be seen, heard, valued, and understood in a way that can often be challenging in our day-to-day life and in and around the people in whom we share this life with. And so it's so beautiful that we have this opportunity of community, an opportunity of connection, an opportunity just to be settled and present and contained in a way that holds each of us in unconditional love, that holds each of us in a sense of worthiness and a deep, deep resonance of truth, a truth that guides us deeper into awareness, but also deeper into a purpose that is truly beyond the ordinary. And so we honor each other. We honor all of the mediums who have come forward and been a part of this series, that have been so open-hearted and so vulnerable and so giving of their time and sharing their stories and their wisdom. And we honor the mediums who have come before us, who have walked these lands, the ancients and the ancestors, the light bearers, the leaders who have made space and created and given all of us permission to show up to be who we truly are in this life. And so we honor and celebrate those that have come before. And we honor and celebrate each other, every single person who is connected here through this event, and every single person who is giving of their time, their heart, their love in service through their mediumistic abilities, in service to their greater calling, that continue to show up and that continue to step up, that continue to offer a connection between worlds in helping to heal the hearts, in serving for healing, not only within our communities, but around the globe. And so we honor every single medium that is out there. And to those who are yet to come, those that are following in our footsteps, those that we are treading through this time-space reality, where we are making a clearing, a pathway, an expansion of light and purpose for every medium that is yet to come, that is yet to step into their fullness, yet to step into their purpose, whether in this lifetime or in generations following ours. We celebrate and honor those who are yet to come. United in purpose, united in love throughout history and time, of all that was past, all that is present, and all that is yet to be given for the future. And so for this and so much more, I say thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Amen. Amen, amen. What glory, what light, what beauty we have in this gathering and in being here together. Whew, yeah, there we go. Beautiful. Thank you. All right, taking another deep breath in. And bringing yourself into presence and into space, and of course, into this very beautiful and wonderful conversation that we get to have here this evening together. So tonight, I'm really excited to introduce my guest speaker here this evening, Amanda Souliotis. She is I'm telling you, not only is she a shaman and a medium and doing amazing energy and healing work, her story in coming into her gifts and moving forward in this is truly, truly inspiring. Amanda is, like so many mediums, living and existing in what are, some very regular day-to-day jobs. Amanda works at the hospital. She's a nurse. She's been, engaging with the spirit world through a very busy, let's call it busy environment, but a very spirit busy environment as well, and finding her wellness and finding her balance and finding her purpose through those interactions with all those souls that she meets and she works with there. So Amanda, thank you so much for being here in this conversation tonight. And thank you. You have been here consistently, night after night after night, rallying, cheering, being a part of every single one of the conversations. And I'm sure you're feeling as inspired by everyone as what I am.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. I'm very honored to be here. And I've loved seeing everybody's stories throughout the week. I'm going to apologize now because I feel like every time we talk, Bonnie, my birds don't stop squawking. So ever since you've the thing, they have not shut up. So you might hear them in the background. And I feel like this happens every time.
It really does, doesn't it? It's like they have to get in their 2 cents about everything too.
So you might hear them because they're just squawking right now. So yes,
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. So of course, Amanda, I've had the pleasure of working with you and I've heard your story. I would love, of course, for you to let people here get to know you, and just if you want to share, how this really came, you came into doing this work, share, I want to say in terms of, when did this, your sensitivity start showing up for you? How did spirit start making their presence known to you?
Yeah. I don't think I had compared to like everybody else's stories, I don't think I ever had that innate thing like when I was little, right? So I don't ever remember those experiences, but I always remember kind of going by houses and be like, oh no, that's haunted. Like, don't go in there, that's haunted. Like I could feel something. I'm like, that's haunted, don't do that, don't go there. But like not like I just, it looked like a haunted house. Like, so like don't go in there. But I think when it really popped up is I've always been very empathic, always can feel people's emotions, right? That's always been very strong for me. When I was pregnant, the first time, because I did have a miscarriage, unfortunately, but the first time I found out I was pregnant, I had a dream. And in the dream, I took a pregnancy test like 3 times in the dream. I'm like, okay, like what is this? So I finally woke up and like, clearly I gotta take a pregnancy test. So I took a pregnancy test and it was positive. And then when I looked at the test, I was in the mirror and my lights flickered. And I just immediately, like my grandma, like I don't like, I couldn't see her face, but it was because I'm more of the claircognizant, right? That's kind of how my gifts come through.
Yeah.
More of that feeling, just like that was her, like confirmation saying that she was with me during that time. And like she was excited for me. And then as I started going along, I think my biggest opening was during my Saturn return. I know someone else talked about it too, but that was kind of, I knew something was going to happen, right? Like something in my life was going to shake up because it was just, I wasn't on the path that I was supposed to be on. So it came to shake it up, right? So that was my divorce.
I'm just going to have you pause for just one moment. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time or you're not familiar with astrology, a Saturn return is something that takes place for all of us every 30 years. It's as if God or the higher power or the powers that be, the universe, basically come in and really create some upset or upheaval in our life to get us on path and purpose, to start reprioritizing, to start living our truths, to basically closing and completing things that no longer serve for us and supporting us in what will be a next chapter of our life. So these time periods can create a lot of havoc, a lot of upheaval, but it's all in helping us to really get clear on not only where we're going in life, but also helping us to get clear on who we really are. So thanks, Amanda, for just that pause.
Of course. So that was like my big that started my own self-healing journey. Started I think introduction into crystals, honestly, because I think that was the most tangible thing that was near me.
Yeah.
I instantly connected with crystals, and I got a certification in crystal healing. And then I was going to my own healer, who's local to me, and through her sessions, she helped me tremendously. But I started being like, no, like this feels right. Like I feel like I want to do this and I want to explore, but I, very ADHD. So I'm like, ooh, that's shiny. I want to try that. Ooh, I want to try that. Like, and I wanted to do everything all at once, and I needed to get right all at once, right? But realizing that not everything is for me. But every time I did that, the shamanism aspect, like just kept, like the word just kept coming in my head, and not really even understanding what it was at that point. But it's like, no, but I think this is where I have to go because I keep hearing that. So I took a shamanic light apprentice course for about a year and a shamanic Reiki course simultaneously, two different teachers, but they helped me tremendously. And it was through my journey is where I learned to kind of really connect with spirit and my spirit guides. And yeah, I'm trying to not make this sound as crazy it is, but so it's funny because like when you asked me like right to do this, I was like, well, I'm like, what is she asking me for? That's not really right. But
I know, it's so funny how many mediums go. I don't know if I'm really a medium.
right. But no, super honored to be here. But through my journey is like really connected to my guides. And I have two power animals who I talk to almost on a daily basis. And one of them helps me tremendously in my healing. She's part of my healing. So through my learnings, I just, do energy healing. So my guides come in, usually other people's guides will come in, messages come in. But I also learned how to do psychopomp, which is crossing over of souls, and like possession work. So, and it was funny because like when I did it with my teacher, the first psychopomp, we did like a group session. And she wanted us to go to where there was like a wreckage or whatnot. And we all had to like kind of help bring these souls. And I remember everybody was being like super emotional. And I was looked around, I was like, am I doing something wrong? Cause like, I'm not like, I felt bad because I wasn't super emotional like everybody else, but my thought was like, no, I got to help them. I got to cross them over. Like, I got to get this done. That was kind of my thought. And it came naturally to me. And then we had to do our personal one. And I was like, no one's going to be here. Like, that's really weird. So then I go into it. And as soon as I go into my journey here, well, it's about freaking time. And I'm like, and it was my great grandmother. I was like, okay. I said, what are you doing here? And she was like, well, I've been waiting for you. Like, she was this sassy little Italian thing. And basically she was like, I stayed here for your grandfather, but then I got stuck and then you took forever to get here. So I've just been like waiting here. I was like, okay. So, so I crossed her over. And the way that I learned how to do it is like you have like a circumpomp guide, and my guide is actually Goddess Hecate. So she helps me with the crossovers. Like you kind of come up with your own ritual, and she helps me do it. So that was my first experience actually crossing souls over. And then as far as relating it to my work, I remember as far as like mediumship with, I feel like souls and the dead, I connected with you first because I had done my astrology, right?
Yeah.
And my teacher was like, do you know you're a medium? And I was like, no, I don't. I was like, I have a little inkling, but no. So then she recommended you, and your class had really helped me think to trust myself and to really understand that everything is something. That always stuck with me, that everything is something, like the birds walking and everything, right? And I wasn't, and I'm not a very visual person with my visions, right? And we've discussed that, and that used to frustrate me to no end.
Yeah.
And but I remember one time, and I was supervising, so I also supervised, and I was at a different hospital, and I was walking through the hallways, and I was doing my rounds. It was at night. It's a very old hospital, and I walked by a room, and I remember I saw a guy. He had his head in his hands, and he was sitting on the bed. And I walked by, then I stopped. I was like, well, that's really weird. He's not sitting on any linen. Like his bed doesn't have anything on it. So like I went to go back, and I'm like, nobody's there. Nobody's there. But I saw him play his day, and he was just like holding his head, and he was just like just upset, like he was like stuck. So I think that was my first time I actually saw it. And then I was like, okay, so I just kept walking. um, and then I think this happened when I was still with you. I also so we had a long-term patient on my floor, very long social history, but had no family. And I had done a breathwork journey with one of my teachers. And in my breathwork journey, his higher self came to me. He's like, I need you to help me cross me over. I said, what? He's like, I need help. You like, I don't know how to do it. I don't have anybody, but I need your help. I said, okay. I said, well, he's like, I'm going on Tuesday. And this was like on a Saturday. I was like, okay, you're going next Tuesday or like the Tuesday after? He's like, no, Tuesday. I said, okay. So I get to work. So during the week, and it was interesting because other people had the vibe that they thought today was going to be the day for him. And it ended up, it was like towards the end of my shift, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, Jude, like, you got to do it quickly. Like, I'm almost done. And like literally 10 minutes to the end of my shift, he ended up passing. So I was able to cross him over like in the moment.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
he was just so relieved. Like he was scared because he didn't have anybody, but he didn't think he was going to have anybody on the other side. And he did. So he just like had this big happy face, like when he crossed over. So that like solidified it to me. And I was just like, okay, like, it sounds weird to do this work, but I'm naturally drawn to it. Even before my abilities started showing up, hospice end of life patients were always my favorite, and that's horrible to say. But because you can spend the time with them and you're there as part of their transition, their final transition. And I always loved doing that. And then recently, because I also oversee an ICU, so intensive care. We had a patient very young, he was 28 years old and not doing well. I went in his room, and then like 5 minutes later, I felt like this rush of cold air like in my chest. And I immediately thought, I was like, his soul just left, like he's gone. It like just popped in my head. But then I tried to talk myself out of it. It's like, no, no, like you're just being pessimistic, like that's not right. And I was like, no, like he's not there. And then he ended up dying 10 hours later. Um, and then so I had texted my friend's mother, who is a like psychic medium, like from the womb. Like this is just like so natural to her. So
Yeah.
I kind of used the mentor. And I'm like, this is what I'm feeling. Is it like I feel like his soul just like left me, but like, am I being? She goes, nope. She goes, that you opened up a portal for him when you walked into
Yes.
the, and he saw that opening, and he's like, and he left through you. He's like,
Yeah.
she's like, you have to trust in your gifts. I'm like, I know, but like, so like, right, you have that,
Of
imposter,
course.
right, that we talk about. So
Yeah.
and I just remember like the rest of the day I was like sobbing, and I was so confused because I was like, I don't know why I'm crying this much. Like I don't, like I was just like sobbing. And then I remember like it just hit me, and I was like, this isn't mine. It was his. Like he
Yes.
was grieving for himself because he was 28, he had a whole life to live, his family was grieving. I was grieving his tears. And it like lasted the whole day. But like he was just like, no, that's mine. That's not yours. I was like, okay. But that's kind of just where I seem to be drawn to,
Mhm.
being in the hospital, and it that's where my path seems to be going naturally.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Thank you for sharing, Amanda, because I think here again, this is so valuable because not every single medium, is an inexperience of the spirit world for the majority of their life. There will be something that happens. They take a class, there's some, they have an attunement through even Reiki, or they might even, they might have an illness or someone close to them dies, where all of a sudden this ability to connect with the other side opens up. And so, for you, this is, your journeying and you're coming into your shamanism and things was definitely an opening. And I think I also love, as you said, this is, I always say it time and time again that our experiences are the very thing that start to define our purpose through mediumship. And so we need to look at what are the consistent things that keep happening? What are the things that I keep doing? What are the conversations that I seem to keep having through the readings or with my guides? Because all of that begins to define a direction that you're being called to go. And so for you, and I know this, of course, in knowing and working with you, and it's just that you have a real big calling in what is that state of transition of helping the souls in, as you shared, even with your patient, to be there and help and support the transition of spirit to the other side, but also for those who are stuck between worlds. I mean, your sweet grandmother going like, it's about time, it's like, it's so cute to me that she was like waiting. She knew you were going to get there and she was just patiently waiting for you, right? And not even trying out any other medium to get there, right? But it starts to really define, it starts to show, spirit helps us to recognize what our purpose is through mediumship. And not everyone is someone who is meant to do readings. Like, I mean, do we have capacities to be able to do that? Absolutely. And it's an important skill in order to develop and understand how spirit is communicating with us. And so, we can look at doing readings as a way of being able to make sense of the impressions we're receiving, make sense of, kind of defining a little bit in terms of what something represents or means, or how they uniquely communicate with us. And then once we have that, then it becomes a kind of a movement forward based on what really not only fulfills us in doing this work, but also in terms of what seems to be the consistent pattern. And I know, even as you say, as weird as it sounds, or as maybe as terrible as what it could be judged, that being in hospice and being in the ICU at that time is so deeply, it's fulfilling. It's what you enjoy doing. And so there is, when we look at the joy in service is such an important indicator of purpose as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So amazing. So amazing. So what has been your greatest challenge, Amanda, in coming forward, stepping forward in doing the healing work that you're doing now? I mean, obviously you still have, your quote unquote day job, and then you have this amazing business that you are operating as well. What's been your greatest challenge in being able to move forward with that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is self-confidence, imposter syndrome, right? Because that tends to pop up. And when I first started, it was hard to separate, like trying to find a way to marry my spiritual path and my healing business with my muggle job, as I like to call it. Like how, because I felt so separated. Like I would go to work in like 9 to 5, and then I would do this on the side. And I just felt so torn because I'm like, this is not, like, I feel like such a divide. And then slowly they started kind of mending together. Um, and I did that essentially by offering Reiki sessions to my nurses. I did it as a way to give back, like a heal the healer thing. And I do them like little 15-minute sessions in my office. And I was slowly starting to able to weave that in. And now it kind of just meshed naturally. I still kind of have that divide, right, of the muggle versus my spiritual business, but slowly starting to weave a little bit more into it. But for me, yeah, it is. It's the confidence, because I wasn't a visual person. I was hearing, right, and the voices, they were my voices, like it's in my voice, but it was more like thoughts were coming in. So I was like, well, no, that's not real. Like I would always question everything, and to the point where eventually I just get like a little flick on my head. They're like, can you stop? Like, this is type thing, right? Like you have to get out of your own head and get out of your own way. And my GP really helped with that, because once I kept practicing doing it, I just started to trust the messages coming through. And I was like, no, like just stop questioning it. Like this is what it is.
Yes.
Have been consistent guides that came to me. Our animals is my wolf, and she's what we call a Kinfilja. So in Norse tradition, it's your ancestral guide. That could be animal, it could be light being, it could be whatever. but she's my guide in all of my journeys, but she's also my healing guide. She does my soul retrievals with me. She does my depossession. So she's, and sometimes I'll just get a flash of her face in my head. So I just know like she's there. So
Right.
I think the consistency of my guide showing up and just really learning to shut my ego off and just really trust in what's coming in has just been.
Mhm. Yeah, oh my gosh. And and I mean, claircognizance is definitely one of the biggest challenges for mediums. And now, for those of you tuning in who are not familiar, claircognizance is the soul sense that allows us to just know something. We have no evidence based on that whatsoever. There's no clairvoyant vision taking place. We're not experiencing any imagery, or there's nothing happening other than there is a thought that is happening in our head at that time. And it can be really confusing because it's like sorting out, is that my thought, is that actual something coming in from spirit world? And again, we can hold it back and hold it back. And I love how your guides just like flick you on the head and say, can you say that already? Because it keeps coming back. And I mean, and that's really what I pay attention to, is that the thought that's coming in, and if I question it at all, I just wait for a moment, because if it is guidance from spirit, if it's something that needs to be shared, I'm not going to be able to shake that thought. It's going to keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back. If it disappears, well, it disappears because, one, maybe it's no longer important for the spirit to get that through, or maybe it was just my thought. I've really tried to, just again, trust these are the thoughts that are coming. This is what, but it is difficult and challenging. And I'm someone as well, because of my PTSD, I don't have the same kind of clairvoyant or visualization capacities in my mind. It's better now than what it used to be, for sure, but it definitely is not one of my keener things. And so for me, I always have to pay. It's like the thought, I allow the thought, and then it creates the vision, or I allow the sensation and feeling through my body, and then I have the vision. My vision is, my clairvoyance is not the first thing for me either. So it can be when you're struggling and tripping over those thoughts, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is really confusing. And it's the very thing that makes you feel like you're making it up, that you're full of shit, that this is just wishful thinking. It's where the imposter syndrome comes from. But here again, our confidence comes from speaking it, and when we're sharing it, and then we get the validation back, and it's like, okay, good, right? But we can't, it's like we this claim, or we try to make a claim so we could feel confident and then do this work. And it actually is the opposite. We need to do this work, we need to offer the message, and then the confidence builds from there, right? So it's, confidence really is an inside job. But when we go into connection with the spirit world, it's trust. And you brought it up, trusting is one of the most important things in doing this work, trusting your guides. And so I love how your guides show up for you, and they're present and helping you to forge that trust, in order for you to, do this work and follow through with what's being asked of you. Yeah. So I'm really curious, Amanda, as well. When you are crossing over the spirit world, one of the things that I have come in the work of, when I'm doing this work, I always have a conversation with the spirit. And one of the things I always ask them, if there's something that they require or need before they go. And so do you find that they share that with you as well, that there's something that they're needing to fulfill, or a message to leave behind, or something in order to help and support their crossing? Do you find that?
I haven't yet, but I do always ask the question, are you ready to go? Because some people aren't,
Right,
and they don't, so they want to stay here. And you can't force it, right? So they have
right.
to be willing to go to that side. So I haven't encountered that yet, where they've asked me to deliver those messages, but part of the reason why I took your class, right, and
Yeah,
continue, is so I can help deliver those messages, because I feel like
right.
that's where I'm going.
Yeah,
But yeah, so I haven't run across that just yet, but I do
yeah.
always ask that question, are you ready and willing to go to the other side? Because they
And
have to be.
They have to be. I think this is again too, is we have free will in life and we have free will in death. And some of these souls, for various reasons and in their readiness, they may decide to that they're not, no, I'm not ready to go. I'm not, I'm not ready for it to transition. Or they can be afraid of going. There can be all kinds of reasons why they might be holding on. So I love that. I love that that's a question that, you are honoring them in their passage in that way. That's really beautiful. Really beautiful. Yeah. So, what would you say would be your biggest fear? I mean, I think we all have fears. I mean, we talked about your challenge, and you said it was confidence. But what do you find has been the biggest fear to get over? Is it the fear of the spirit world? Has it been the fear of what other people are going to think of you? Like, what is that for you?
Yeah, I don't think, as far as what people think of me, it's gonna sound awful. I don't really give a shit what people think about me. Because right, this is my life. But it took a
Yeah.
while for that because in the early stages of my life, I was a very big people pleaser. And I didn't realize that's what I was doing until I actually got divorced and lived on my own. And I wasn't setting up my own boundaries. I was just taking the easy way out because it was the path of least resistance, right? And I was people
Right.
pleasing every um but then now just as I've been like, switching to my spiritual beliefs and honoring the Sabbaths and everything, like this is me and I don't care, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm being true to myself. Um I've I don't necessarily fear the spirit world. I think now understanding what the things that were happening was, like I think in the beginning as the experiences started happening, because we talked about like the flashes and like the shadows, like that was happening a lot and I didn't really understand what it was. I thought it was like going blind in one of my eyes. I'm like, what is happening? So but then we discussed it, that was actually spirit.
Yeah.
And what's been, yeah, I don't think I have a fear, but I've had, so as my gifts grow, I'm like more stunned, like as things happen. Like there was one night I remember, I think someone else mentioned it too, like they woke, they could hear their name at like 3 a.m. or whatever. I
Yeah.
was like going to sleep and like someone yelled in my ear. They're like, Amanda. And I was like, my response was absolutely freaking not. I'm going to bed. Like we're not doing this. So like doing like talking about your boundaries and setting that, I was like, you can come back tomorrow. Like I'm going to bed.
Yes.
But I think that's where your class helped, because had I heard that and not I probably would have jumped out of my bed and like ran out of my house. But like what
Right.
it was and setting that boundary um is I think what helped me. But and it's helped me a lot because my son is starting to see spirits.
Is he?
Someone else
I was going to be my next question. Yes.
So someone else had mentioned it, I think, in one of their other talks when they saw them when they were they saw them as shadow beings, and that's exactly
Yes.
how he sees them, as shadow beings. And but it's helped me because I'm like, well, they're not necessarily bad. It just means like that's just how they're presenting to you. And I've showed him how to do boundaries, right? So like, if you don't
Yes.
talk to them, you tell them like they're scaring you, please go away, and they do. They go away.
Yeah.
And we've talked about Archangel Michael creating your bubble of light. Like we talk about those things. So I think that's been really helpful because one of the things he said, he goes, well, nobody believes me that I see them, except
Oh,
for my mother. Like he said that to my mother one time, and I was like, well, no, I believe him. Like I can see that. Um, so it's been a huge help with him with that. And now that he's put up his boundaries, he doesn't see them as much anymore, or I just don't know if he doesn't pay attention to them much as anymore. But it's like, listen, this house is like warded up with like evil eyes and Michael, like this. I'm like, nothing bad is getting in here. I said, so it is because I'm very big on like protection.
yes.
So I'm like, if it's here, like they're just saying hi, like it's because you can see them, so they're excited because they just want your attention. I
Yeah.
said, so you just have to tell them that they're scaring you. You just have to, another time. And they do. And he goes, you're scaring me, please go away. And they go away. So
Wow, wow. Well, and this is really, and thank you for sharing that because when we understand and know that, it's not just a select few people who are tuned in and tapped in with these abilities to the non-physical world, but to know and understand that this follows through generation and through bloodline, and it's a part of genetics, and that chances are that not only if you're experiencing the spirit world in your lifetime now, that your grandmothers, your great grandparents, your ancestors, had this these abilities as well. And that also goes to say that, as we are bringing children into the world, this is a part of what we are passing down for them as well. So when we look at, understanding how spirit communicates with us, we start to have some practices and some foundational ways in which to create a safety network so that you've got the boundaries in place. Not only are you doing it for you, but this becomes information and teaching and wisdom to be able to pass forward to these other mediums that are coming in. And I know that, I would say, I look at, I'm aging myself here, but especially, the last couple of decades, I've really been witnessing and seeing that the children who are being born are so high vibrational, and they are so connected, and connected in a way like originally, for the majority of children, it was something that was predominant till they were about 7 or 8 years old. And then that's when it kind of closed down for them because, again, they go into school, there's different structures, they start to, work and exist in life in a different way. It's like that begins to be dulled out or disconnected in some way. But what's happening over the last couple of decades is that those children are no longer losing the connection. And so a lot of those individuals who are who are challenged, or who being diagnosed and labeled and having all of, don't get me started, but it's all, some of the medications and things that are being given to them. These are just sensitive children. These are just mediums who are needing the help, the support, the wisdom in which to navigate an energy sensitive world. And so when we look at the increased aspect of anxiety is a commonplace for mediums. We experience anxiety. It's how our emotional body goes into a reaction to spirit's presence with us. But more and more children are suffering with anxiety. But when we look at the world and globally, that as collective consciousness is raising and more people are stepping forward and bringing more light and more connection, that spiritual connection is not something that's being lost anymore, that these children are coming in and they are tuned in, tapped in. And I'm telling you, I'm so grateful to hear that your son has you and that you're able to support him and reassure him, because again, as isolating as it feels for us as adults to have this going on, to be a young child and experiencing it, it's a whole different story.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that about like the anxiety, right? And so my son does exhibit signs of ADHD and some anxiety. But I refuse to medicate him because he just functions differently, right? But I
Yeah.
remember talking about this with one of my community groups, and someone was like, ADHD, alternate dimension, higher dimension. And I was like, oh, like when she rephrased it that way, I was like, I
Yes.
love that, because it just means he's in a higher dimension than I am, and he can just see more than I am. So like that really stuck with me, and I really loved that.
Oh, I love that too. I really, really love that because that's true. It's what's
Yeah.
happening. It's like, right? It
Yeah.
truly is. They're really tuned into a higher frequency of energy. And so, when we look at understanding and being able to navigate our own sensitivity, then, we look at these many ways. And I know I had someone ask me not too long ago and said, Bonnie, when are you going to put together your psychic medium children's program? And I'm like, I get it and understand it, because I look at even, as for me as a child, what that was like. I have my own grandchildren coming in, who are also exhibiting sensitivities. And so, it really goes to show that the generations coming forward have even greater purpose and have even stronger abilities than what we have maybe even experienced for ourselves. So yeah, I love how she shared that. I love that a beautiful way to express it. All right, Amanda, so we're coming into the tail end of our conversation. It just goes by like so quickly. And I mean, we could go on and on and on. And of course, you've been here every single night. You know that there are two questions that I really like to have everyone give feedback and guidance with. And the first one has to do in terms of advice for other mediums who are really struggling, maybe feeling resistant to coming forward and doing this work, who may be struggling in terms of following that call, who really, are, and maybe are almost feeling like they are, again, as what you said, this imposter syndrome, this uncertainty that exists. What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I would say just go for it. Just speaking from personal experience, the way my guides operate, I don't if when I don't honor something that they're telling me or trying to put forth, I almost get like a sickly feeling in my stomach, or like the thoughts just keep happening. So it's almost like making me like I have to do it. And I feel like spirit will keep putting you in those positions until, right, until you learn those lessons or until you like act on it. So I feel like just doing you, like this is for you, this is not for anybody else. And I know that's so much easier to say than to actually do, because some people like do this in the closet, right? It's a lot, like it's hard. But it's coming down to being true to you, like your soul path, your soul calling, and just really trusting that spirit truly does have your back. Like and you'll find your community. Like you will find your community. I didn't ever think I was going to find my community, and I unfortunately had to go to upstate New York to find my community. Um but now that I found them, like I couldn't do what I do without them. So like
Right.
once you find those like-minded individuals, like they become part of your soul family, and it just elevates you, honestly. So I would say just do what feels right to you, in your own timeline. You like the timeline that you're on is the timeline that's supposed to happen. It's not like you don't have to be anywhere at a certain time. Like what you're doing right now is what is meant for you to be doing, and just finding your soul tribe, really.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And of course, that's what an event like this, the community that begins to grow and what is being nurtured. And again, it's about knowing that we're not alone in this work. We feel alone, but when we start participating and being involved with community of with mediums and for that support and everything, we feel less and less isolating. So it becomes easier sometimes in order to even handle, maybe the naysayers or the non-believers that are out there, as we come up against them. I really love what you said as well too, of just knowing that you're right on path. Like wherever you are, you're right on path. I think that's important as well. That it's not about I'm far behind. I'm not going to get anything done. Other people are more successful than me. It has nothing to do with that. That you're exactly where you're meant to be. And as you shared that, how you said you get physically ill if you're not sharing this. You get physically, and it reminded me of what Sunny Dawn Johnson said the other night, right? She said, "Spirit always wins," right?
Yeah. Not wrestling, it's gonna
Always
happen.
wins.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you for that so much, Amanda. All right, so the second question, of course, that I want to share, or have you share insight with, is there's a lot of people who are tuning into this series and this program who have lost loved ones, who are really struggling and looking to find their healing, their understanding of the afterlife in order to help in healing their hearts and being able to move forward. What insight do you have to offer those individuals who are on their grieving journey and finding their way through all the confusion and all of the heartache that goes along with that?
Yeah, I think to reiterate a lot of the beautiful messages that all the other speakers have said is that just talk to them like they're still here, because and don't make it feel like you're crazy, right? But having those conversations, like putting their chair at the table and still like acknowledging them every morning, and maybe introducing them to in your morning prayers or when you say goodnight to them, just still keeping that connection, um and looking for those messages. Like you said, it may not be that someone's talking in your head. It may be the flash of a light, or it may be like they come to you in a dream, or like that thought that pops up, right? And just acknowledging like that's their presence there. Um, and grieving for everybody happens on different timelines and different paths, and everybody grieves very differently. So I would honor what you're feeling and sit with it. In shamanism, we're very big about kind of sitting with it in your body, like where is it in your body and how is that transitioning, right? So, but just really honoring that emotion, because when you shut it off, it comes back as something else. Um, so just really just sitting with that grief and honoring it for as long as it takes you.
Yeah.
Because everybody has different timelines, and that's okay. So it's doing what feels right here.
Oh, it's so important, and you're right. And every death is an experience all its own, and it's all based on the relationship that was held. And so we grieve differently for in different relationships, and our journeys can also look different than other people, even if we're affected by the same loss. So I love how you just shared, just really honor where they're at and to feel. In my work too, this is all about feeling it and finding it in the body and being with it and just allowing it some presence instead of resisting or denying and suppressing it. So I think that's so beautiful. Thank you very, very much. All right, I want to turn over to the chat room here for everyone who's tuning in. If you have any questions for Amanda or myself, and maybe something has been burning at you for the whole series now, and here it is, it's the last night. This is your chance to ask those questions. Please go ahead and post them into the chat forum, and we will definitely follow up and do everything we can to help and support you. So Sandra is asking Amanda, she said, I noticed that when you're speaking, the lighting changes color. Is that your spirit guides that are with you right at this time?
I would love to tell you yes. But I will be honest with you, when I first opened up my Zoom, I had to walk around with my computer to like find a good lighting because I did not have good lighting. I was trying to figure out where to go. But I will say that every time me and Bonnie had a session online, my computer would just like crash or like something would happen because everybody was like around, like trying to get in on the conversation, and it would just haywire the connection. So, it could be, but I also think it's just the poor lighting that I have.
But it's true, and this is important too, is that we mediums, because we not only have a higher vibration that allows us to connect with the non-physical world, we have a tendency to blow out our technology, our online. I think too, Amanda, exactly. It was like boom, and there went our connection, and here we'll come back. And I look, even like my headset. This is May, and in May, this is already my fifth headset that I've gone through, simply because they keep blowing out. They keep, my webcam goes, computers go, my phones burn out really, really quickly. So this is commonplace for mediums. And so I have an agreement with the spirit world that in order for me to continue to do this work, they need to continue to remunerate me so that I can continue to replace all of my expensive equipment. So anyway, so here we go. Here's another question from Veronica. Do you have advice for new developing mediums adjusting to learning how their abilities work in relationship to their muggle jobs? Sometimes in healthcare, it is weird.
Yes, it is weird. And I would say that working in healthcare particularly, I feel like anytime, even if you had like customer service, anytime that you have FaceTime with somebody, right, you're dealing with energies, you're dealing with everybody's energies, but especially in healthcare, because you're at a place where they're at their sickest, they don't want to be here, they don't feel good, they don't feel safe, they're not in control of their situation, so and the family doesn't have control, right, so their emotions are already up here. And then it just escalates to the staff, right? So what I have learned in my own practice is I had to get good at shielding. Um, and then I had to learn how to not shield so much where I was like blocking people's like messages
Yeah.
coming through, but you have to protect your own energy. So you're not absorbing it, because I would come home from work and I would just feel like someone just shut my power off, and I couldn't even move. I had no energy. I'm like, what is happening? So it was coming into those practices of, I would picture myself with my bubble of light around me, and then I would call back my energy at the end of the night before bed. I always call back my energy to me, and I return any energy that's not mine. I return it back to the sender, with the breath of love, right? Because a lot of the times people don't know they're sending off that
Right.
energy. So it's, you're always sending it back with a breath of love. I also started wearing a medicine pouch around my bag or my badge to help with my protection while I'm there. Um, and then, but also bringing things into my workspace. So in my office, I have crystals, and I made it like fun for my staff. So like I hand them out to my staff. Like I have a little dish on my desk where like if they're having a bad day, I give them a crystal, and like we go through these things, right? And then I actually have like a portable burner an incense burner and I burn sage in my office. And then now that at first they're like, what is happening? They're like, oh, no, Amanda's saging, it's fine. Because that is my safe space. And I have so many people that come into my office and just dump, right? Like all this
Yeah.
information, all these emotions, like I have to make it my own safe space. So I would say just really protecting your energy while learning other people's, because it'll drain you.
Mhm.
And something else one of my other mentors taught me, she was like, when you come home and shower, like I use like the Himalayan salt, either do like a Himalayan salt bath or even with your feet soaking, or just take it and rub it on your hands and just do this. And because you're going to help with that cleansing at the end of the day. So it's
Yeah.
just about returning the energy to where it belongs and kind of protecting yours.
Yeah, and it really, thank you for that, because it really does come into this energetic self-care. Like we have to, our self-care, not only in terms of, the things we're doing in terms of our nutrition and exercise and, the choices we're making in that way, but also self-care energetically and being able to, when you look at salt, salt is a natural diffuser of negative energy. So, being able to, as you said, just do a wash through your energy field with salt on your hands is very, very helpful. Those saltwater baths. I always encourage people, you can also, if you're not a bath person and you're more of a shower person, when you step into the shower, you can just intend and ask for the water to be changed in frequency to a silver light shower. Silver is the highest and purest frequency and vibration for cleansing and purifying. And so a silver shower, and as you're washing, it's washing through your hair and your body and your skin, and it's releasing everything that you've absorbed or taken on or holding in your field. It's really important. And I love how you say, just send it back with a breath of love. This is also understanding that we make energetic connections to every single person that we're around, every day. And so even if you're someone like me who works majority of the time online, I'm still making a link. There's still an energetic connection. And so, being able to clear those links and being able to send back the energies, not claiming the energies as mine, but releasing the non-beneficial energies, sending them back to the individuals so that they're able to deal with what's theirs. And I send it back with unconditional love. There's no judgment. I know they're suffering. I know that they're challenged, but it's also knowing that, this is what I need to do in order to know my wellness as well. And if we're not doing it, I reached a point, and this is, again, I always say that, we're never taken through to something that we won't be seen through. And so I know for myself, like there, in the beginning parts of my journey and in doing this work, I wasn't aware of all this. Like I learned all of this by default, and I learned all of it because I had the contrast happen first, and then I had to seek the guidance and help from the divine and from spirit to, like, how do I manage this? This isn't okay. But empathic overwhelm, psychic burnout, even having compassion fatigue. We as mediums, we may not be, we are, I want to say, we're not necessarily like the paramedics and the nurses and doctors who are on the scene during those times of trauma, but through our energetic connection, the spirit is taking us back there as we are having the clairvoyant visions, as we are experiencing their crossing, their loss, etc. All of that impacts us in the exact variables and in the same ways. So we need to be very conscientious that we are always have practices and things in place that really help us to not only be well in our life, but also energetically, that we have environments and our energy field is also of clear and as well, because it does have a very impact on our well-being. And all of that congestion of energy too can also create greater separation between the physical and non-physical world too. So we want to clean that out in order to keep a clear connection, with our angels and guides, and a clear connection to those loved ones on the other side. So such a good question, Veronica. Thank you very, very much. All right. Anybody else have anything else? We've got a few more minutes here. Of course, if there's anything that we can offer. Susan, it's so cute. I love that. they're saying too that the changings of color, how the lights go out, the street lights do that for people, traffic lights. Yeah, it's funny. I love playing this game. I actually love playing it when my husband's in the vehicle with me because it like weirds him out, and I love like weirding him out on things sometimes. And so what I'll say, I'll just say to him, I'm like, I'll just ask my guides first, and I'm like, what, if we can have green lights all the way, and as we're going, and I'm like, well, that light's going to turn green right away, and he's like, no, it's not. I'm like, yes, it is. And then we pull up, and then boom, the light's green. It's like, and he's like, how do you know that? And I'm like, well, and it's not that I know, it's simply because I've asked for that, right? So yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun to be able to play that way. All right. Doesn't look like we have anything else coming in, Amanda. Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. You guys, you know what? Amanda, thank you so much, of course, for being here, for sharing. When we look at throughout histories, mediums have played a significant role in providing the healing and the guidance for people who are seeking connection to their loved ones on the other side. And, our abilities to communicate with spirit, to understand the energies, and even in, conversations with higher beings, we really serve the world. There's and in today's world, we're so interconnected, and I really truly believe that we as mediums contribute to the global healing that's going on. That we, through our presence and through our willingness to show up and to, bring more light and love into the world, that we are certainly helping to facilitate, positive change in the lives around us, but of course in the world as a whole as well. And so, we serve as a bridge between the seen and unseen world, and, to be put into a position in life where we get to help and support people through their losses, through their grief, and in answering some of those existential questions that can come forward. I mean, it really is such I'm humbled by this work. I'm deeply grateful, and I just really am so honored that this is what my life has become. And yeah, I know for myself that, this bridge between the physical and spiritual world really serves. And so for those of you who are tuning in and who are, looking to do any training, to learn more, to understand how the spirit world connects with you, whether it's my programs or someone else's, I really just encourage you to say yes to moving forward with it, because it will bring you, as much as there is challenge and as much as there are some things that can be some hiccups along the way, the fulfillment that is there, the joy that can be found, and this deep this feeling of great purpose is something that is almost indescribable. So I really encourage you, in whatever way serves you best, to to say yes, to go for it, just like Amanda just shared, and to follow through with that call to serve, because it really, I just know for myself, it definitely has been something that I simply do not regret. I'm grateful every single day. So, and I'm sure, of course, Amanda, you can attest the same. Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, God bless. Thank you so very much for being a part of this amazing series. Amanda, I am so thrilled to know you and honored that I have the opportunity to support you in your mediumship. And of course, so inspired by the work that you are doing and will continue to do. And of course, each and every one of you, God bless. Thank you so much for being a part of this world and contributing to the light, contributing to the conversation, and contributing to purpose for mediums everywhere. So until we meet again, everyone, bye-bye for now.